News Ticker for Monday, May 21st, 2012. I'm Kirsten Winkler.
I'm Christopher Dawson. Early this week in tech and startup news, AT&T's largest donation ever creates a national hub for learning through video games. Quoting Beth Shiroshi, AT&T Foundation's Vice President for Sustainability and Philanthropy, we decided we were going to aim for exponential change in education. With this reboot of its Aspire Education initiative launched 4 years ago, AT&T's made a big bet on GameDesk, a nonprofit startup that grew out of the University of Southern California. They're committing $3.8 million for GameDesk, first to build brick-and-mortar hub in Los Angeles, a classroom of the future, as they call it, where new game-based curricula and processes can be demonstrated, observed, and evaluated. Then the company will broadcast those data through an online educational content portal for parents, students, and educators. That's from factcoexist.com. So that's actually very cool. And we'll see if maybe we can get some research behind all the gamification.
I wanted to say, because, we hear a lot, but I sometimes ask myself whether it is really sustainable and how to implement this. So, almost 4 million, they should be able to invest quite a bit in research. That would be cool, yeah. All right, and then Microsoft announces its back-to-school promotion. Buy a PC, get a free Xbox. Great. Microsoft, just like Apple, usually runs a major back-to-school promotion every summer that is meant to give students, and their parents of course, some extra incentives to buy a new computer. The company's just announced back-to-school deal for the US and Canada is pretty much the same as last year's. A year ago, Microsoft gave students who bought a new PC and Xbox 360, and this year it's doing exactly the same. The program is scheduled to start on May 20th, so that was yesterday in the US, and May 18th in Canada. To be eligible, students need to buy a Windows PC worth at least $699 for the US or $599 in Canada, and that's courtesy of TechCrunch. Yeah, so not really new stuff here. They could have imagined a new deal, but maybe not everybody has a free or not everybody has an Xbox yet. So
I guess it's so to take away to college. Leave that.
Sure. Yeah, and of course we are, in the rest of the world, we are as always disadvantaged, as only you and the Canadians get the good deals. So, well.
Yeah, but those Xboxes, they're just 5-year-old technology and old.
Oh yeah, but I noticed the same for cloud. So if I were in the US, I would get for my cloud many more deals. So over here in Europe, we only get lame ones and not really interesting cloud stuff. So
maybe someday.
Someday, hopefully.
So put in your pocket. A $74 Android stick goes on sale. The MK802 Android 4.0 mini PC just popped up at online retailer AliExpress. It has a single-core 1.5 GHz processor, 512 megabytes of RAM, and a 3D graphics processor. And as the name suggests, it runs on Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich. To use this little guy, you'll need a monitor or HD TV that accepts an HDMI input, plus an HDMI cable. You also need a wireless USB keyboard and mouse combo, which plug into the machine's lone USB port. The device has 4 gigabytes of storage on board, plus a micro SD card, and it supports 802.11bg Wi-Fi. So that's in Techland on time. That's kind of interesting. I think we're seeing a lot of movement, actually, with Raspberry Pi, and you see these other people and organizations pushing these little devices, nearly embedded devices. We have a new version of personal computing.
Yeah, I've also read a first sort of look or unpacking thing of it in another article today, which was pretty positive, and yeah, why not? As you said, definitely or apparently a market for those smaller and very low-cost devices. Interesting.
That's the future of one-to-one. You just have schools be supplying screens of whatever sort.
Sure. Okay, let's move on. Mashable has a story again, Microsoft, and they launched the so.cl network. The social website was tested by a handful of students at select universities since late last year. The site combines search and sharing for research purposes, and the interface is similar to Pinterest in that users can create boards. Like the early days of Facebook, the network is only for college students right now. And pronounced social, oh yeah, right. So, thanks. Okay, right. Social. The site was developed by Microsoft's Fuse Labs to encourage collaboration and enhance social search for learning purposes. Quote, we expect students to continue using products such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and other existing social networks, as well as Bing, Google, and other search tools. Social noted in its About section, and we hope to encourage students to reimagine how our everyday communication and learning tools can be improved by researching, learning, and sharing in their everyday lives. So, thanks for giving me a little lesson on how to pronounce it. But it's a little bit typically Microsoft that is not so intuitive. Well, at least not for me, with the dot in the middle. I was a little confused about the name.
Social, but CL, that's not shoal in any language, so, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Social, yeah. Good.
Microsoft. Yeah. All right.
Maybe the tool itself or the platform itself will be much cooler than the name, hopefully.
Microsoft always makes cool products. Yeah. Anyway, so enough snarks for the day. So, in K-12 and higher ed news, when the school is the bully. Last fall, a 13-year-old student was forced by her suburban Chicago school to let them access her Facebook account and scour her private information, a policy the mother says is commonplace in the Geneva Middle School South. The vice principal called the mother to demand her come to school immediately to read through her daughter's private messages. Her daughter ended up crying through most of the rest of the day and therefore missed most of her classes. She was embarrassed and very upset. When confronted in the school about the issue, they told us routine policy to investigate students' social networking pages and cell phones. Geneva School Superintendent Kent Munchler told MSNBC Friday that the mother's version of events is inaccurate, stating, "We would never demand someone's password. When you have someone's password, you open yourself up to other issues." But alarmingly, he added, "If we have a disruptive situation, a school official will ask to see the page, and if the student refuses, we call the parents. There are different levels of concern. If there's drug trafficking suspicion, we get the police involved. If there's something like cyberbullying, we'll say, this has been reported to us, and ask to see the page. We ask, is there something you want to show us? That sort of thing. And they volunteer."
I don't know. New dimension to bullying.
Yeah, no, that's from salon.com, and you know I think volunteering and there's a fine line between volunteering and coercion.
Yeah.
It's awful hard for a 13-year-old to say no.
To stand up and really say no. And our last story comes from The Guardian. Quebec rocked by student protests. Quebec's provincial government, facing the most sustained student protests in Canadian history, has introduced emergency legislation, that would shut some universities and impose harsh fines on pickets blocking students from attending classes, as it looks to end 3 months of demonstrations against rises in tuition fees. Hundreds of demonstrators gathered in downtown Montreal on Thursday night as the government introduced the bill which protests spilling over onto an expressway between stalled cars. Tuesday will mark 100 days since the demonstrations began. Authorities said 122 people were arrested on Wednesday as thousands of demonstrators took to the streets of Montreal. Bank windows were smashed and missiles thrown at police. Wow.
Using missiles in the typically British sense and not the American sense.
Of course, yeah, that would be a little too harsh. Yeah.
Agents, you know, they never get upset like that. But you know, I think you pointed out, maybe it was last week, that here in the United States we're quite familiar with rising tuition fees, and we expect it. We don't like it, but it is what it is until we really reform higher education the next few years. But you know, in other countries,
we're not used to it at all. Yeah, so it's really a big thing, and not used to taking on student loans unless you go to a private institution. Maybe then it's normal, of course. But if you attend a public university, it's something, well, revolutionary in a bad way. Oh.
Right. So, latest in study and research, sophomoric members of Congress talk like 10th graders, analysis shows. Turns out the sophistication of congressional speechmaking is on the decline, according to the open government group, the Sunlight Foundation. Since 2005, the average grade level at which members of Congress speak has fallen by almost a full grade. Every word members of Congress say on the floor of the House or Senate is documented in the congressional record. The Sunlight Foundation took the entire congressional record dating back to the 1990s and plugged it into a searchable database. Lee Drutman, a political scientist at Sunlight, took all the speeches and ran them through an algorithm to determine the grade level of congressional discourse. We just kind of did it for fun, and I was kind of shocked when I plotted the data and saw that, oh my god, there's been a real drop-off in the last several years, he says. In 2005, Congress spoke at an 11.5 grade level on the Flesch-Kincaid scale. Now it's 10.6. In other words, Congress dropped from talking like juniors to talking like sophomores. That's from NPR. And I have absolutely no doubt that that's the case, and I fully expect them to be freshmen next year.
And do you think that is because they want to be somewhat understood, or is it really a general decline of... I guess that's not only amongst them, but many parts of society always using the same set of words again and again, so it somewhat shrinks, but of course in such a position you would expect some more sophisticated language, I guess.
You would, but I think, well, you'd hope for more sophisticated language, but if you listen to these guys talk, they aren't saying anything new, and it's just a big, snarky debate.
Sad.
Yeah, it is sad. It is sad. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a really well-spoken new group of congressmen and women. That closes this episode of ENT. You'll find all the links to the articles we covered on EduQuest. Just go to eduquest.com/ENT15 and follow the EdNews Ticker on Twitter at EdNewsTicker to stay updated during the week. You can also help us with the show. Go to our new subreddit at ednewsticker.reddit.com and submit your own articles or vote and comment on those you want us to discuss during the show. ENT will be back on Wednesday. Till then, have a great start of the week.